I just have high school. So to anybody who would listen to this, that you need a master's or you need a doctorate, yes, you could go ahead and do that. It helps. I just have high school. I'm getting my associates right now. But don't let just having a high school or a sixth form diploma or anything stops you from whatever you want to be, right? Because right now, I started the digital department here at Channel 5, which is the largest, more established news station in Belize. I'm now officially a company manager, right? So
Congrats, bro.
thank you. So my message would be then to anybody listening to this, listening to me, out of the hardship I gone through, because God, the good Lord knows I struggle.
Yeah.
We struggle, we struggle. I mean, the minute you make one mistake and it airs, or a spelling mistake and it airs, or the catches and rip off your head, you're on Facebook, Belizeans, they're nasty. Then I tell you anything will come in for their mind,
Mhm.
right? But you persevere, you learn from your mistakes, you accept your mistakes, and then you learn not to do those kind of mistakes again. So my journey has been a really roller coaster ride. When I had to take it chill, I tell my boss the other day, I don't make nothing, nobody, no stress me out this year.
Okay. Welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Climate Calabash podcast. I'm your host and editor, Gladstone Taylor, and today we have with us an esteemed guest, a fellow climate tracker colleague, um, a master journalist in broadcast in Belize, and a stalwart in the environment reporting space. But he's also one of the mentors within our different programs at Climate Tracker. And so we're here today to learn some more about him, a little bit about his take on the environment, but also to get you guys, our listeners, the ones who are listening for opportunities, the fellows or the potential fellows, some advice and some best practices. So how are you doing today, Hipolito?
Gladstone, thank you so much for inviting me to be in a podcast. I think it's been months. I've been at the podcast.
Yeah,
The last time it was fabulous. I expect this
yeah,
time to be excellent. I mean, this is one of the podcasts. If you're into climate change and reporting and everything climate change, the Caribbean Climate Calabash podcast is the podcast to hear. But I've been good. How have you been?
not too bad, over there I try to manage the heat and all these types of crazy things were going. But yeah, I mean, I guess we can start with a look at icebreaker. I guess I would ask you, what are the series you're watching now, TV series, and what out of those that you come up with, like what's your favorite, and what's your least favorite?
So right now I just watch one series right now, and I hate it because it's on Prime, and sometimes Prime they tend to release episode every week instead of Netflix where they just dash you with the whole season, right?
Season, yeah,
I watch Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
I think
crazy,
they
crazy,
released 5 episodes so far. They released 4 in one shot,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they released the fifth, I think, earlier this week or last week.
and
Um,
then one today,
okay, so you say I have to watch that tonight.
yeah.
So for me that
I
10 out of
just watched
10.
it.
For me that 10 out of 10, I like it. I love
Yeah,
it. I focus on that right now. I don't
yeah,
watch nothing else.
yeah. Crazy. No, I'm actually watching the same exact thing actually,
Mm.
because I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. Big into the books, the initial
Mm.
films, the Hobbits, all of it. Like very, very into the world of J.R.R. Tolkien. So it's interesting because the series, the first season, it struggled a bit, and I think this season it's picking up. Like there are a lot of critiques. I think, but I think outside of the whole fan base thing where you have toxic fan bases, I think even with like Star Wars and the same
Yeah.
with Tolkien, a lot of them get like super antsy if people are adapting and they change things or they add things or whatever. So there's been that kind of apprehension since the first season, although I do admit that there were quite a few things about it, the first season that was weird, like the pacing, And what do you think that changed it this season that kind of gave it a little bit more?
Yeah. So last season, for me, it too kind of slowish, right? Because I'm a guy that like action. I want to see all of the fights. I want to see the magic. I want to see this one, this visual, the fight. This I want to see all of that, right? So the first season, don't may start off slowish. I think the build, the base or whatever, and a lot of people can appreciate that. I never really appreciate that. I just want to get to the point and say who is Sauron and how he get out of his power. I want to see all of that, right? So for this season, we see the development of Sauron. We see how he get all of this thing and how he manipulate this and the rings of power and everything that was written in the book. Now you get for see it how the director and the producer visualizes on television. Obviously, when you read the book and you watch the series or the movie, it's totally different. Because when you read the book, you visualize it in yourself. For you, how Gandalf looked for you, right? But with the videos and the series, you are told how he looked, right? But I like how it go right now, how it progress right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the major thing is probably the pacing for me. That I think they went back and probably looked at the films because the films have a really excellent. Shout out to Peter Jackson, have a really excellent way of like timing and not having like too much dialogue. So I think they struggled a bit in the first season. It was a bit of a struggle because I can imagine there was pressure as well, like trying to kind of establish the world and visually for people. So this second season I like it a bit more. I think even my biggest gripe like in terms of like the casting, Galadriel, I think she is doing much better this season, even though I hate hearing her say Sauron. Like, why are you rolling your tongue, bro? This isn't. Yeah, it's not like that. It's just an ordinary R. Like, what's going on? But I mean, we can talk a bit more about that some other time or on our own time. But so tell us about your journey getting into journalism. Some people might want to know, and a lot of the past fellows and stuff watch and listen to our podcast. And I think even our incoming fellows might want to watch to kind of get a sense of what's going on. Give them a sense of your journey, the beginning of it, to where you're at now, and what all the different kind of paths that you took to get where you are.
Yeah, I never thought I would have been a journalist or being on TV or reporting or doing any of this, right? When I was a child going to high school, primary school, I never thought this would be my career. So this is how it happened, right? I still remember it because I still share with people with new journalists in the field. I still share with them because I always tell people everything happens for a reason, right? So I went to the University of Belize for a 4-year scholarship, did 2 years. I dropped out of high school, UB, right? Was unemployed for a couple of months, just sitting at home, lazing up, eating my mother's food and stuff like that, right? And one day, my father, he scolds me. He tells me, he demands that I go look for a job. And I need to find a job now because me, just being a vagabond and whatever, eating my mommy's food, they sleep whole day and do nothing, that he help clean or wash dishes, it can't work out anymore, right? So I'm watching television and I see one ad for a vacancy for a reporter for a local news station there. I applied for it. I mean, I'm not on the low intellectual side, so I applied for it. I end up to like it. I end up to watch how the other larger stations, the other more established stations and established reporters do their things, right? So go to the field, watch them, observe how they do their scripts, how they do interviews, how they ask questions, the tactics they use, watch all of that, and then learn a lot from experience. I stayed there for about a year and a half in a local station, went to a national radio station, TV station, and I grew there. You're right, because the competition was more competition there, national level, right? And even then, I saw opportunities, programs, workshops, trainings that, as someone who didn't go to UB to a university to study journalism or communication, I had to tap into all of those little resources. I used to get up at 2:00, 3:00 in the morning, to see what the competition posted up on their news website, to see what they had on their nightly news the night before, just to see if they did a better story than I, or they got an exclusive interview that I didn't get from my story, right? I used to eat, breathe, everything news. Right? I was consumed. It was my life. It still is my life and my career, right? And I managed to love it. One of my recently hired staff asked me, "What's the passion? How can I explain the passion that I have for journalism?" And I told her it's so hard because I don't know how to explain it. Like, I love it. It comes naturally to me now. I can't see myself doing anything more than being a journalist or reporting, right? It's so hard for me. I mean, I've been offered jobs before by government ministry or NGOs, but I can't see myself doing nothing else than being a journalist. And now I just have high school. So to anybody who would listen to this that you need a master's or you need a doctorate, yes, you could go ahead and do that. It helps. I just have high school. I'm getting my associates right now. But don't let just having a high school or a sixth form diploma or anything stop you from whatever you want to be, right? Because right now, I started the digital department here at Channel 5, which is the largest, more established news station in Belize. I'm now officially a company manager, right? So
Congrats, bro.
thank you. So my message would be then to anybody listening to this, listening to me, out of the hardship I gone through, because God, the good Lord knows I struggled.
Yeah.
We struggle, we struggle. I mean, the minute you make one mistake and it airs, or a spelling mistake and it airs, or the kitchen and rip off your head, on Facebook, Belizeans, they're nasty. Then until anything will come out of their mind, right? But you persevere, you learn from your mistakes, you accept your mistakes, and then you learn not to do those kind of mistakes again. So my journey has been a really roller coaster ride. We're not had to take it chill. I tell my boss the other day, I don't make nothing, nobody, no stress me out this year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, that's an amazing goal, and as someone who I can relate a lot. And actually, I remember you giving me this same advice when I was your fellow in the first fellow checker climate justice fellowship. I was, and this happens to me probably just in general. But yeah, I some kind of, I guess, imposter syndrome, and just wasn't feeling as confident. And you gave me that same advice that you didn't have a college degree either. A lot of your what you know is all of it is from experience and picking up opportunities and learning. So yeah, this is amazing advice, because a lot of people might think that they don't qualify to be in these jobs. And it's an essential message, because the truth is what this job is, there aren't enough of us. Right? There is literally not enough of us. Not only are there not enough of us, in a lot of cases there aren't enough roles for us in companies, and enough budget for us to report the way more developed countries sort of report. So our region in general kind of lacks that. But if people keep believing that there's this kind of barrier to entry in the space, then that lack isn't going to grow. So it's important for people to really understand that it's just about having a sober and clear mind, being curious. Those are some of the essential things to becoming a journalist. Diligence, integrity is a large part of it as well. Respect for other people's story. But yeah, it's pretty much an open. Well, let me not say open, but it's a space that it's inviting to everyone. It reminds me of the like comedians. Where that's one of those jobs that anyone can kind of do it. You do need to put in time to become good, and I think that's what your story is kind of telling us here. A lot of the hardships and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I think in that list that anybody who wants to be a journalist must have that passion in it. Because I keep telling people being a journalist or having this as a career, it's an unforgiving career.
Mm.
You could do all your best and everything, but the minute you do something wrong at the ears, they tell you they want to eat you, they want to devour you, the public will devour you. So you have to have passion. No, and you mentioned our new in the region, one first of all, we have to be real. Journalists in the region don't get paid a lot.
Mm.
Our salary are not huge. And people think because we up on television or we up on radio, we have
Rich.
people we rich, we got a lot of money and this and that and whatever. You know, back at the end
Yeah.
days, then used to, people on the street used to beg me for dollar. Now they beg me for $20. I mean, then think because you work on TV or you work on the big channel 5 and you use
Yeah.
5 that you have a lot of
Enough
money.
money.
We not get paid that much. The resources are very, very limited. Our newsroom and staff very limited. I think across the Caribbean we have really, really tiny newsroom. We have about 4 reporters in the newsroom. That is for us in Belize. That is considered a large newsroom. Some others only have 2 reporters and the editor, or 1 reporter and the editor. And then we need to cover the entire country, right? So these are limitations. Again, if you don't have passion for it and you see all of these challenges, restrictions, the frustration, and you can't deal with it, then it's not for you. I mean, plenty of times I go home stressed, but when a complete stranger meets me on the street and tell me, hey, Polito, I like this story you made the last time. I enjoyed seeing it. I enjoyed reading it. I enjoy how you question the prime minister. You never let that hook. When strangers give you compliment like that, it feels really, really good because it solidifies what you've been doing. And you in your mind, it's like, okay, so what I've been doing is having an impact on public opinion, on public sentiment, and that feels really, really good.
Yeah, it's very, very essential. Especially in our region, the when it comes to the environment space, where the knowledge is lacking quite a bit in terms of public education. After reporting on the environment for so many years, um, and then becoming a part of some like climate tracker where you start to share some of what you've learned from your years of reporting. Um, what are your sentiments about our region now in terms of the climate change itself, and I guess where we are versus where we need to be?
Okay, so a lot of people don't understand climate change. They understand the climate is changing, right? They understand that the fruits and vegetables at the market are running faster because of the heat. They understand that now flooding happens more regularly and in areas where it never did flood before, right? They see that, but they don't understand that that's climate change. No, I think a lot of government ministries and departments are failing in terms of educating the people what climate change is. And I see that in Belize, right? Yes, there's another press release, there's another this, but I haven't seen a massive education awareness
Campaign.
campaign, right? To tell people about climate change and why they should care. Because when Belize send delegates to COP every year, a dozen, 2 dozen, the minute we post up that story on Facebook, you have people to comment why we need 2,000 people, why we need 24 people at COP, and why only can the minister go. But a lot of people don't understand what happens at these COPs in terms of the different negotiations happening at the same time. And one person can attend 20 different negotiations if you want to be represented in the groups, right? But since I've started reporting on climate change, on weather matters, and what's happening with especially for Belize, I think we've created some sort of impact, although small, but some sort of impact. And over the past few years, the media in Belize, we have been reporting more on climate change, especially when we introduce programs like Climate Shockers or other organizations that are interested in helping journalists, not only in Belize, but across the region to report on these stories. Um, and I think a lot of people who now understand it more could appreciate our work. For the region, I think we've come a long way. I think we're more unified whenever we go to COP as a block. And I think that helps a lot. We have to have a voice. And even though people criticize, yes, we go in there and nothing will happen because the big polluter countries, they won't do anything. Yes, but we have to be represented. We have to have a voice. We just can't let them go just like that. When the chairman of Oasis from, I think, Samoa for the last cup, he spoke to dozens of reporters saying what he didn't like about negotiations, and that in some of the negotiations they were not let in. We just can't be absent. We have to rail up, man. We have to vent our frustration, make the world know. And as a journalist from the Caribbean, we have to be there to report that, because I'm sure the UK media, I'm sure US media not report nothing what they want in the Caribbean because their readers are not here.
Yeah, true. Very much so. Yeah, it's a tricky thing because you try to explain the importance of a thing to people who don't understand the root, like you try to explain the importance of some like cup to people who, to a lot of people who don't, as you said, fully understand what climate change is. So it's a uphill battle, but we still have to kind of do it. And yeah, as you said as well, there has been some progress in terms of, if you compare now to a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? More people familiar with the word, or even if it's not climate change, they know about global warming or something
Yeah.
to that effect.
E-
You know,
even even this morning, one of the guest speakers again he mentioned, you know, our emission is 0.00000 so much zeros before we reach an actual number, which is understandably way less than what the US, China, Russia, UK, India they produce, right? In terms of emission. But he said again, we are the one facing the brunt of these impacts, and we
yeah,
don't have all of the money in the world for
recover.
basically recover or change anything. So get this. So the big polluter countries, they havoc for we created havoc for the past years. We did get impacted. So now we have to go back to them and ask them for money to help ourselves for the problem they continue to create.
Yeah, exactly.
If unfair, if unfair was a thing, that's a thing that's like, and a lot of people don't understand in terms of vulnerable groups. They don't need that right now. They're already vulnerable. They don't need another problem or stress to go through their life. You know?
Yeah, yeah. No, man, it's one of those things, and then when you have to report on it too, is like you have to kind of find a way to regulate. Um, so how you manage that, like balancing between reporting it on the news, but also on your own time, but also working with the subject with Climate Tracker.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah,
yeah. So again, you have to have passion for it. So with your passion, you have determination, you have your commitment to your work, you have the ability, or the will, or how we say it in Spanish, the ganas to work weekends. Use a now 8 to 5 job, use a 24/7 job, right? And because our newsrooms are small, we here at Channel 5, we don't have a reporter who specifically reports on climate change, a reporter who specifically reports on court matters or crime or the economy. We the jack of all trades here, right?
yeah,
So we have to report anything and produce a nightly newscast every single day with a certain amount of story. Now, if the prime minister call a press conference or there's a triple homicide or a fire with 10 people, they get hectic, stressful, hectic. None of the day, none of my days for the past what 10, 12 years in my career as a journalist have ever been properly planned. Because something always happen, right? And sometimes it happen last minute. So we have to balance. So for instance, if I'm doing a story on, I did one with coastal erosion in Belizean, right? I did an interview, spoke to the lady. No, she don't have a broke down house, and the sea is literally on her doorstep, right? And there's a high tide coming that night, so that means she'll be flooded out. Now she has nowhere to live. And she told me, what, in the past the beach used to go extend further, but now the sea just eating up everything. And then when she tells her story and she cries to you and tells you she doesn't know what to do, Like she literally doesn't know where to go or what to do, which is why she called the media, which is why she called me, right? Because she has nowhere to turn. She called the politicians several times, they don't reach. But and her family basically has abandoned her. But she cries saying she doesn't know what she does. And then you get that human interest out of it because then you get the ability to tell her story and make people care about her story. Because it is happening to poor people basically. To poor people. When they have the money to go buy another house or go rent there or relocate. To vulnerable people. Did that interview, sat down over the weekend, to try to write it as good as I could for television. Um, and it came out. No, yes, it was only her interview, but the story was told with other facts with, in terms of climate change and other data I found online. Um, but and then you have to balance like what one of the things that Ryan Bachu said this morning as he was one of the guest speakers. You have to get all the sides of the story, and you have to make sure you ask them. And it can't be that you just call the politician or the minister in charge of climate change or whoever. One time they don't answer, so you're stop pursuing. No, ring up their phone till they get vexed and then they block you. WhatsApp them. I usually ring up for their phone, WhatsApp them, Signal through Signal, Telegram, regular message, then email. And if I find them on Facebook, I will send them a message on Facebook so they can't say I never reach out to them. Right? But yeah, they want balance
Yeah,
and then you have to love it.
yeah, because they will do that. They will act like, oh, you didn't send us a message, or
Mhm.
we didn't see, So yeah, I have to kind of follow up, and yeah, well, maintaining that balance. So yeah, I mean, even the broadcast space itself have a different level of high pace kind of stress when it comes to production and stuff like that. How you manage that?
So I do this job here. I'm working in climate tracker and going to school plus doing other fellowships for art journalism network. There are two stories for them. I did one for the Media Institute. And people ask me, how do you manage all of your time? Um, I drink every night. I'm just kidding. I don't drink every night. But you have to have some time for yourself, right? And then you plan way ahead. You schedule your time. It's all about time management and do not procrastinate. I procrastinate a lot, but I'm not a chronic procrastinator, right? Um, the time management and knowing exactly what you want, because if you want to cover a climate change story, if you want to cover a particular story, climate justice or energy transition or anything, you have to know exactly what you want. So you create your storyboard. So you know you have to go directly to the persons that you want and see if that pans out or if anything comes out of that. So you're not a chicken without a head kind of thing, right? And that helps in terms of time management. That helps in terms of getting your story, write a drafts, write something every night, a paragraph or two paragraphs every night. And then at the end of the week, you see your story unfold there. But the lot of time management, lot of extra work, weekend work, and a lot of rum and coke.
Yeah, I know enough people can relate to that. Trust me, we're working on media. But the next thing I want to go into is your experience as being a mentor aboard Climate Tracker. What has that been like for you from your side, first of all?
So I've been here for a little less than 2 years. I think this will be the third cycle. We're rolling in our fourth cycle next month, right? So I've managed to work with I think over a dozen or so, close to 2 dozen journalists so far since I've been in Climate Tracker. Um, one of the things I like about it is that I make connections with people in Jamaica like you, Gladstone, in Guyana and Trinidad and St. Vincent. I would have never think I would have ever get to meet anybody from St. Vincent and the Grenadines or from St. Lucia, or Puerto Rico, right? I would have never think I would have any relationship with anyone there. So the networking
No,
is
fuck.
fantastic. And not only that, I learned from you guys. I learned how to write. I learned the different angles in a text stories. Like for instance, this past fellow, Calvin, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, he produced a story where he spoke about the heat in the classroom. That was a totally different perspective in terms of climate change, how the heat affects students in the classroom that don't have proper ventilation or don't have AC. And I mean, if a poor school wants them, then I have to either fundraise or increase fees or something like that. So that was a cool, really unique angle in terms of climate change. Same thing with Carolina. Um, she looked at how fast vegetables and fruits are running at the markets and how many thousands of bananas a vendor has to throw away because of the increased sea that causing them to rotten more faster than what they're being sold, right? So I learned from you guys, and that's fantastic. I mean, the team at Climate Tracker, everyone, all you guys have been fantastic in terms of teamwork, in terms of production, in terms of every single thing. Um, but it's been great. The I know some will not stress me out, but I think a good stress. I think a good stress, right? A good stress. um,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that goes. I mean, and the way we're going now with Cycle 3 and 4 in terms of producing that TikTok video and reels and their contribution to the newsletter, it engages fellows more, and the interactions we have with them, plus the sessions, the workshops we have with them, the I think the information that the guest speakers that Johannes or the Zan managed to book for these sessions, they're really, really good. And when you listen to them, when fellows actually listen to them, they get some really good ideas to write about climate justice. So in terms of the whole program, at 10 out of 10, I mean, I'm sure I'm biased, but I'm 10 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. A lot of those points I agree on in terms of even the, meeting people from around the region. Yeah, would I never imagine that I would have know, and there's a power in that because a lot of us face some of the same issues in terms of the environment and climate change. But
Mhm.
I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you about fellows, advice for fellows, current fellows and prospective fellows, and even past fellows who might be thinking about applying for something again. What kind of advice would you give some of them in terms of not just application, but during what they might need to sustain and to successfully complete the fellowships?
Yeah, I think my first advice would be do not be deterred. Because again, I mentioned most of the fellows we managed to successfully welcome in the program, they're working journalists. And if you're working on a TV newscast, and then El Cycle there is nightly and daily. So I'm sure they're busy. So I could understand when a fellow tell me, you know what, their things pop up and I know I can't meet with you today, whatever. Totally understandable, right? But my advice to them, do not be deterred. Sometimes the work might get one lot and you might be too overwhelmed or stressed, but it's all worth it. I mean, the amount of traction and traffic we get on our website and the number of shares in terms of the fellows stories, um, it's worth it for the fellows. I mean, they could produce. We have really good journalists in the Caribbean, and we've seen that in the past 3 cycles now. That journalists in the Caribbean they have it, in terms of climate reporting, they have it. They could do a lot of good stories. So do not be deterred. Get get we as mentors, we are here to help them at every step of the way, right? So we have absolutely no problem with that. And be proud of the work that you do. Once you're proud of the work we do, I mean, we are proud of the work. I mean, some of the stories we work with them won at the Caribbean Broadcasting Union Awards. The Vision is stuff one, right? So and the motivation we give them helps them a lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely understand that there. Um, what about best practices in terms of, having mentored a couple different cycles of fellows now, seeing some issues they might have had, and helping them to come up with solutions. What are some best practices you would share with fellows?
Yeah, I think I have about three. Double check your work, um, fact check your work, and get all sides to the story. Right? Double check. Make sure you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. And you go just read over your article. What I tell them is, you know what, print it out or have it on your phone, stand up, walk around, read it out loud. How does it sound? Because sometimes you get writer's block or your imagination is not flowing that freely when you're just sitting down in front of your computer. Walk around with your pen or paper and say the sentence over and over and over and over. Say it in a different tone, change the words here and there. And with that, I do that sometimes. And with that, you come up with the best way how to say a sentence or the best way how to use a particular word that would make it more impactful for readers or attention grabbing for readers. Fact check. Make sure everything in your script correct. Because the last thing you need for those that retract or apologize or clarify for anything. Because your credibility and your integrity as a journalist will take a hit. Because we don't want nobody they say you had this wrong, we need to check this, or you need to retract this or issue an apology. None of that. We don't want that. I try to avoid all of that. Because one, again, the credibility takes a hit, your integrity takes a hit. They might think that you did it on purpose, they might judge you, they might criticize you, they might think you didn't really care. And lastly, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing, right? And we don't need that. And then what was the third one I mentioned? So double check, fact check, and something else. Gladstone, you're not listening to me.
No, man, listen,
Yeah.
I try to remember the final one too.
Double check, fact check. Get outside. Yes. Gladstone, you're not
Outside,
listening
right.
to me.
No,
I know how to
listen,
run.
man,
I know how to run, but
no, man, I'm here. It just the last one kind of slipped me.
So get all sides. That is crucial. Get if you're doing a climate justice story about maybe the oil industry, or that maybe this huge developer is cutting down mangroves for development or whatever, the reporter needs to get all sides. Because I've seen in Belize, in a previous case with the former prime minister versus Love FM and its news editor Renee Rio, she ran a story, um, and I think the former prime minister was the attorney. She ran a story against this former BTB executive, right? Never check for an official response. Gone to the judge, tell the judge, I message she a WhatsApp, so the message just like, okay, prove it. Where is the message? No message could not come up. Basically, the judge tells she you the lie. Call him a lie in a court, right?
Yeah.
So now they were hit with a fine, I think over $100,000 because she failed to give the opposing side an opportunity to respond. That's why I tell you, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, anything, Instagram, make sure you exhaust your opportunities or any avenues to contact all sides so they could never say that they didn't reach, that you didn't ask them for a comment or response. So those are the three, I think, one of the key things I would advise journalists then.
Yeah, that's interesting. And for that last point, sometimes there's a difference too, and it's important to know when. I guess my question is to ask you, what kind of wisdom would you share about determining? Because sometimes when I say reach out, like the traditional thing people think about is trying to get some kind of interview, and that might not be possible at the moment. But as you say, even like a comment could work, or an email, or over email kind of thing. So what kind of advice would you give them about the wisdom of when knowing when to use which one, or because sometimes that might be the make or break
Yeah.
of whether or not this person or these organizations respond or even say anything.
Yeah, so when I was in the TV news department, because right now I'm on digital, when I was in TV news department, the priority would be get them on television, get them in front of the camera as a response. We don't want no over the phone, we don't want no text, whatever. I want you in a one-on-one interview so I could ask you follow-up questions, right? And a lot of my TV broadcasters would understand that that is what we need, right? Now, in absence of that, If they refuse, they refuse, or maybe they're traveling or out of the country, or they're not accessible, whatever. Do Zoom. The other stuff would be do a phoner. I hate phoners for television. I hate phoners. But when you have to get it and you have to have it, you just have to take it, right? And what I hate too for television would be just a plain out written statements. I mean, that's good for newspapers or for e-newspapers or for digital, for an article, good, whatever. But a lot of people would appreciate if you say and hear them, they say exactly what you ask them to respond to. Now, when you ask them a question, not give them everything you know. Don't tell them, okay, so Johannes, I'm reaching out because
XYZ
Gladstone
said this.
said that, right? Give them a general thing. Give them a general thing. If the conversation happens and you need for a specific thing, then you could do so. You know, Johannes Gladstone call you and thief. What do you think about that? Right? Stuff like that, right? But I mean, a lot of journalists who are seasoned will understand how to phrase your question and more or less when to send one message. Obviously, I don't want to send one minister a message 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Or late at night, but you try to understand how they work. How, or if they're the office or they're trying to find out what there. Confident driver. Where the man, where the big boss there? I would buy the big boss in the office when anybody in there. He said, no, nobody in there. Right. Make I try text or call the man. You know, things like that. The Lily tricks then like that then.
Yeah, no, because that ends up being one of the big pain points for a lot of journalists is getting through to these people and the kind of hoops you have to jump through. But you have to fit. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have to fit, forget a hit as would I say in Jamaica. But yeah, thanks so much for the advice and the conversation, Hipolito. Thanks for
But
joining us.
before you go, Glass, so one last thing, right? Because you
Yeah.
mentioned that in the region you'll have some ministers will not respond to journalists. You know what I do after we done messaging so much time? And I
What
still post up my story. The caption on the Facebook or Instagram, I will put Minister Johannes, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Minister Johannes, whatever, is not responding to Channel 5.
Yeah.
So they're being called out. So then after that, they read the message, whatever, and they go and send one surrogate for contact to me or send one message and this and that or whatever. But I don't think
Yeah.
that, right? Yeah, you call them out for that, man, because they have a public responsibility for answer to the journalists, especially elected officials. But anyways, go ahead.
No, 100% facts, and it is so annoying, especially when because I do a lot of freelance stuff. I'm not, I'm not in a newsroom, but sometimes I do work for international papers like the Guardian, and it just annoying when say it's not like it's a national company, it's an international company, and them interested in this particular information about Jamaica. And I try to reach out to the people who's supposed to be governing these things, and you can't even get them. Not, it's like it's annoying. So sometimes there is a responsibility there, like you said, for them, and sometimes you have to spotlight them so people know that they're not making themselves available to be accountable to the people. So yeah, essential advice there. But yeah, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much too as well. I like the conversation.
Yeah, man. It was good to catch up. Good to talk about some of these things. I think people don't know as much about the inner workings of Climate Tracker. So we're trying to open the space, and the podcast format is a great space to do that. So, we're gonna keep it going too. Bring on some of the other staffers, and I think keep it going as the programs evolve and as what we're doing evolves, so that people can, so that even the communication is better.
Yeah.
With a lot of things, I think something like this can help with that, like
Of
being
course,
able to share an episode and say with a fellow and say, here's so and so talks about basically what we're saying and whatever. So yeah, we're trying to create a local database as well for our fellows, as well as share with our audience. So
most
thanks
definitely.
again. Yeah, thanks again, and until next time.
Good then.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much, Gladstone. All right. Take care.
Bless.